Hello. Welcome back to Trading Weekly once again at 1 p.m. Eastern Time, as we're here every Sunday. How are you doing, Kaye?
I'm doing great. Happy Sunday to everybody who's watching. It's a pretty rainy, gloomy day outside, but hey, we got a banger of a show, so get on with it.
Exactly. Here in the UK, it's a bit brighter. It's a little bit overcast now, but it was nice and sunny this morning, so we went out and got a coffee, etc. So it's been a nice day so far. Okay, let's jump into it. We've obviously a disclaimer. It's a couple of guys looking at charts, giving our perspectives, and we kind of love doing it. But of course, it's not financial advice. It's just something that might help you kind of learn something around trading with your trading journey. So yeah, if you do like that kind of thing, obviously do stick a like on it and repost it, whatever. We really appreciate that. Massive thank you for Wolf as well for letting us use the platform. We really appreciate it. Couldn't do it without you. And then lastly, of course, put your ticker requests in the comments down below. And I'm just going to close that curtain slightly because the sun's coming through. There you go. Now you can see me. Put your ticker requests in the comments. We've had a few come in already, which is great to see. The general people coming back, which is what we kind of thrive on, the kind of regulars that come back here and there. So stick them in the comments, and we do appreciate that. And we'll get to them probably about 20 minutes or so. Thereabouts. But yeah, how was your trading this week, I want to get into that.
Well, the two tickers especially I was watching was the CRM and Lululemon. Well, I'm glad I did not take the CRM trade because CRM kind of sort of bombed, even though, and I don't know if you guys watched, but there was a little bit of a spat between the CEO of CRM and Palantir.
Okay, didn't see that.
It was very interesting. I did not watch the whole segment, but it seems like that after the earnings report, CEO of CRM, Bernie, I forget his last name, he went on some, I think Bloomberg or CNBC, one of those channels, and he kind of took shots against Palantir. And I think Alex Karp, who's the CEO of Palantir, was also on some sort of conference or somewhere he was speaking, and he kind of I don't want to use those words over here on our channel, but definitely go and watch it out. It was a pretty interesting one. It's basically putting down CRM. The CRM is not in the same league as Palantir, which I do agree. I'm not a big fan of CRM software in general, but they are a big mammoth in the software space.
Yeah, perhaps if someone comments on that a bit later on, we might bring up the chart and have a bit more discussion into that. But yeah, good trading week overall, positive or kind of not so much activity?
No, I would say it was. I did not lose anything, but it wasn't. I didn't make anything either, so it was like a break even. Yeah,
flat week. No, it's a good place to be.
Yeah.
Right, let's jump into the slideshow for the week. Obviously, it is the 8th of September already tomorrow, which is absolutely outstanding. I can't believe we're in September at all, let alone almost halfway through it. Last week's performance, we had a bit of a mixed bag, really. You got Nvidia down 6%, Microsoft down 2%, Google up a massive 11%, obviously related to the news there midweek or so. We've got Apple up 3% there as well. Where's Tesla? It's on the right side there, up 1%, a very modest 1%. And Amazon trading on flat at 0.4%. But of course, we did drop down at the beginning of the week and recovered nicely towards the end of the week. I've actually taken a trade in that as well with Amazon, so maybe we can have a look at that later on. And if you follow me on X, you probably already know that. So of course, follow us both. You've got InvestK there and Sean Trades _ AVGO posted their earnings on Thursday after the close. They look like they actually were quite positive. Do you want to talk to that for a second? Did you see them or no?
I actually did not track AVGO. Let me. We can cover that a little bit later on the.
Okay, yeah, let's do that. Let's cover that a bit later on. Sorry, I kind of put you on the spot there, didn't I? And AMD actually down 9%, so maybe someone will probably bring that up. No doubt.
Yeah. AMD was a big letdown. I think that also has to do with the pullback with Nvidia that we had.
Yeah, definitely. We've got Man Ram here once again. We do really appreciate you. We've got Snow, Rubric, and FTNT. I'm sure Kay's written them down already. We'll get to them a little bit later on. But first, we're going to look at the Fear and Greed Index. We're sitting around neutral, which is insane to think that at all-time highs we're sitting around neutral. And I think that's just because of the steady nature of the market. It's nothing's too frothy. It's not loads of volatility. You're pushing the market up here 2-3% days. Then you probably start getting greed, extreme greed. I've said this for the last few weeks. I kind of want it to push into greed and extreme greed just to know that that might be a good time to kind of sell off a few assets, not completely, but to kind of take profits and expect a different kind of market momentum for the kind of 6 to 9 months ahead. Do you want to talk to the left side of the screen there, okay?
Yeah, so the wix is 1518, pretty standard. It has not really moved much. There isn't much volatility even though we had horrible job numbers. They'll probably get revised, and I think one of the sentiments that's floating around now is that, can we really trust these numbers coming out, you know
Yeah.
from the administration? Because when the numbers are bad, those are incorrect numbers. But then if you start to make up those numbers, pretend so I think we are getting into this very slippery slope. I don't know the percentage, but there is a very high percentage we will get a rate cut in September. So we'll see how that plays out. But then again, you also have core PPI and CPI reporting this week, so that's going to be very interesting. Put to call pretty much is standard around this fear and greed number. It hasn't changed much. It's not like we are overly bullish or overly bearish. And as for folks who do not understand, when the number starts to move towards the one, you have a bearish sentiment, whereas the more it goes away on the opposite side is more bullish. Just for clarification. And we got few more tickers from Money Manage, so that I have added them as well. And we had a comment from Random Citizen, Morning Sunshine here. Yep, that's great.
Oh yes, sorry, I missed that one. Sorry, Random Citizen 275. But yeah, good to have sunshine wherever you are. Let's move on then to the next slide. We've got earnings this week. Not many. We've got Oracle, probably the biggest name on the whole thing. Maybe Adobe. Anything else sticking out
Yeah,
for you? Or should we...
I was surprised you did not
Rubrik.
choose Rubrik actually for the
Yeah.
earnings.
So we've actually got Manram who brought that one up. So it'd be good to get that one in there. That's interesting because I'm actually holding a position there. It hasn't really moved. It kind of traded flat. So it'd be good to kind of get the chart up a bit later on and talk to that position maybe. Yeah, I'm not too sure if I want to take that through earnings, but we'll have a little, I'll think about that a little bit more before we jump into that a bit later on. We'll move on again. We've got the first chart of the day, which is, well, charts, I suppose, which is SPY and QQQ, as always. On the left side, we've got the SPY 1 day, and on the right side, we've got QQQ, the weekly. I mean, it's a bit of a tricky week. We had a 4-day week, so you can see if you follow my pointer there. The last 4 days of 1, 2, 3, 4, obviously straight up. But we did have a bit of a kind of a red month, well, red Tuesday, I guess. And I'm guessing that's just I'm not. Why would you think that is a bit of a red Tuesday when we came into that?
Um, I I don't know honestly.
Just maybe a little bit of
Coming back
excitement
from
with it. Yeah,
vacation, low volume, just a sell off. The problem is you're always at all time highs. So when it pulls back a percentage here, the percentage there is like, we're just, it could be for anything, any news. Also, there's a lot of geopolitical tension, right? US slapped 50% tariff on India, right? That's
just
not
like that.
just like that, right? Guess what? They're not backing down either. So but things are, I don't know, they're talking probably behind the scenes, which we don't know, and we won't know until somebody makes an announcement, right? So the geopolitics is still shaky. You still have these I think the Friday job numbers was a real shocker, because apparently they had fired the previous head because they had bad numbers. So guess what, you have another bad number. We'll see how that plays out, but I don't know honestly. I mean, at all-time highs, I mean, you can't keep going up. You will pull back at some point.
Exactly. Just before we move on to further perceptions, how will Hood perform this week? Is it sell the news and inclusion or any dip on the ops? Well, let's bring that up a little bit later on. We'll add it to the list and then we'll talk about that a little bit later on because I think it's better to kind of talk to the chart. But yeah, you're right. It could be a potential kind of buy the news and buy the news. Yeah, buy the news, sell the rip.
Well,
Essentially.
but there's a separate, the opposite you can also say, because when somebody or a ticker gets included in S&P 500, which means that a lot of institutional investors will have to rebalance the portfolio to ensure that, hey, it's part of the whatever allocation it is. So you could continue to see some buying throughout the coming days, maybe a couple weeks. But at some point in time, those catalysts are now over. After that, you'll have to see how the company is going to perform, or have the future outlook, right? I think it would like 3x almost this year by itself,
Oh yeah, it's gone up massively. Yeah, Robinhood.
right?
Are you bringing up the details there?
Yeah, 171% this year you have made, year to date, by the way. And
That's
in
crazy.
one
Yeah.
year, you have made 414%. So if you were just investing S&P 500, you have blown S&P 500 performance out of the water, right? I mean, this is full claps to everybody, applause to everybody who actually held through the stocks. But now you have achieved all your milestones. Now is going to be the real test, because now you're in S&P 500. Now it's all about performance valuation from here onwards.
Exactly. Let's pull it back to the SPY and QQQ then, as we were kind of on this slide. What I did notice throughout the whole week when I was kind of not so much trading, but kind of looking at the charts as I do, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, they all kind of started, they kind of dribbled down and then pushed up into the close. You can see that actually reflected in the charts on each separate candle, on Friday being obviously the biggest one. And I've drawn the 644 line that actually kind of bounced off of that almost perfectly, and almost a 20-moving average as well. So I do predict obviously it's a complete steady higher up until a major trend line is broken. And I'm here for it. And obviously lots of anticipation around the big stocks like Google, Tesla, Amazon. They're all kind of moving quite well as well. And just a little touch on the QQQ on the right side here, a nice decent candle starting at the low and obviously finishing near enough the top, previously followed from a hammer candle. So there's definitely, the buyers are still here within the markets, that's for sure. So it's definitely still a buyer's market, or a bull's market, maybe not a buyer's market. Let's move on to the next slide, and this is where to find us. I'll go first this week. I kind of switch from week to week, don't we, Kaye? For me, you can find me on obviously X. I post daily there, kind of general trading thoughts, all my positions pretty much, and obviously kind of just general psychological bits as well to help you get through your day. YouTube, which is all trading, evergreen trading videos, so you can keep coming back to them, which will help you on your trading journey. And this one here, which is actually a pinned post on my X, which is the chart flow, which is basically a ticker submission. We get some experts to kind of analyze your charts, and we can give you the best kind of analysis, basically, of course. What do you got going on then, Kaye?
Well, similar to yours, follow me on Twitter where I post pretty much daily content. YouTube is meant for mostly trading ideas and investing ideas. I haven't been active that much on YouTube, but that's going to change in a couple of weeks, and which I've been saying for the last couple of weeks, but it will. And then Substack is where I actually post trade ideas. So if I'm taking those earnings trade, I'll post those. And I also post a lot of investing ideas, which I thought is a good idea, because now certain stocks are at 200-day, 300-day SMA. And sometimes when you just make a video on YouTube, a lot of people miss it, because I made those videos for Uber, Snowflake, Google, and people might have missed it, but then you'll also have the written version on Substack.
Yeah, and you get those emails come straight through to you, so it's harder to miss an email where it's easier to miss a YouTube video, at least in my opinion.
Yeah.
It's like a drop in the ocean, isn't it, sometimes, a YouTube video. And that's just how the algorithm works. But yeah, no, fantastic. Go ahead and subscribe to Kaye's newsletter at InvestK. That's hard to say. And let's move on to the next slide, which is our performance, really, from our stock picking from the last.
Listen, I cannot believe that Grab was actually able to beat CRM, but listen.
I mean, it wouldn't have done if it didn't have such a good Friday, or Thursday and Friday. But I mean, CRM, they had earnings, of course. They kind of dropped down, but they really recovered nicely from what I saw in the charts. I was looking at this a bit earlier. So you almost beat me, but you didn't. So unfortunately, it's another one that's 15.6. I think I might win the year. I've got a feeling I might win the year, but of course, there's still time to go.
I think we should just keep the year onward, right? So the year goes to you, and then we'll reset in 2026.
Exactly. Yeah, that's how we're going to do things now on. But yeah, no, it's all obviously a bit of fun that we do this, but it's just nice to keep coming back to this every week, and having a look at our picks and kind of seeing the general of how it's kind of going. Not so much for the competition, which is obviously lighthearted, but it's nice to see what kind of stocks we're picking on a regular basis. Like, I mean, for example, you've got Apple a few times, 1, 2, 3 times. You've got it again today. For me, I've got Rubrik. I've come up here a few times, and obviously Palantir and stuff as well. That kind of comes up fairly regularly. Yeah, that's okay. Let's move on then. We're kind of done with those bits, and it's my pick of the week, which is Rocket Lab. And you can see this is the daily chart. Unfortunately, we're kind of a bit of a day behind, and I wish I kind of saw this on Wednesday, Thursday-ish. Unfortunately, I did take a trade in this before. I can't remember when that was, but I got punched out here on the stop loss. That's how trading goes. Sometimes that happens. You get punched out. That's just one unfortunate day of it kind of coming back down here. But we've been presented with another opportunity. And the reason I say obviously coming back to one day before is because this would have been a really ideal entry point, somewhere down around about this kind of 42 level. 50 moving average trend line there doesn't have the volume as such, but it would have been a good time to start a position. But I mean, we do have another lifeline here. We do have plenty of volume here on the right. In fact, that's a lot of volume. It's kind of reclaiming the 20 moving average, and of course a really nice candle that's presented to us on Friday. So if we get a little bit of hesitation tomorrow morning, maybe come back down to kind of 44 level, maybe 44.50, that could be an ideal entry to kind of get back in. Obviously keep a nice tight stop loss around 40.41, and of course let's go for the kind of 50.51 level to the upside. Yeah, what are your thoughts on this one, Kaye? Do you trade Rocket Lab much or not so much?
I no, I don't trade it, but it's on my watch list. And man, in 1 year, the stock has gone
Oh no.
603%. So, I mean, I don't know. Could it go another 300%, 400%? Yes, absolutely. But generally, I stay away. Just the type of trader I am, I just stay away from these stocks where you have had such a massive run. And the reason is because I have traded those stocks before and I have burned my hand. So I've learned my lesson that this is not the area where I can do the prediction, or I'm not that good at personally. Um, so I don't trade Rocket Lab at this, but it's on my watch list. If it pulls back, and I'm watching its fundamentals also, and I'm kind of trying to follow through what's going on with Rocket Lab as a company per se, not just as a ticker. So it's
Yeah.
very interesting. I'll say this is interesting. Am I going to pull the trigger? No, not yet.
So you're talking a bit more about a long-term thesis, and
It's more,
yeah, so
this is going to be a swing trade for me, not something that I'll do on a weekly basis. Even though the premiums might be juicy, let's look at the premiums. Premiums are very juicy, honestly, for RBRK. Sorry,
yeah,
RKL.
it's a popular name. It really is within the industry.
But
One thing
but
I would say
go
is
ahead.
I'm not actually in this position just yet. So anything that you see throughout this stream and any other streams, any positions I have, there will be a long position on the chart, which we'll probably get into a bit later on because I think there's a couple of tickers there, which
Yeah.
I'm in active trade. So just make that aware. This is obviously not financial advice. It's just about that. But yeah, you're talking about the long-term advantage of this. But for me, it's like a short-term trade, which I'm talking about, of course, just so the viewers are more clarified of what's going on here. But I like that you have this on your watch list. I think that's quite encouraging, somewhat. Yeah, sweet. We'll move on to the next chart then, which is Kaye's pick of the week. That was Rocket Lab, and then this one is Apple. What have
Yeah.
you got going here, Apple?
Well, there's too many lines here, but I'll
There's a
just
lot of lines.
yes. But I'll synthesize it very simply for you guys. I just put a Fibonacci retracement to see what different levels are, but ignore all that noise here. Basically, the thesis is the following: you have the event, the Apple event coming up. The price where the stock is where you see our icon of live. It's kind of it's hidden,
Right there. Yeah.
right? Basically there is really no volume there. So if Apple is able to deliver on the vision of AI, on how they are going to compete in the AI, you could see the stock making an all-time high, or actually breaking its the current levels, because there isn't really much going on in terms of resistance. You are seeing the 200-day SMA is slowly curving up above the 300-day SMA. It hasn't done yet. You see the 20 SMA is sharply going up. So there's a lot of momentum behind Apple now. I saw a lot of news against on the AI plans. The first AI shipment will come out in next March. But see, here's the problem. They said the same thing last year. It's going to ship this year. Did not ship. So you can play it couple ways. One, if you are super bullish on Apple that yes, they will deliver it this time, then you can of course buy the stock, and or buy the call option short dated, maybe a month out, 2 month out, to see if it plays out. The other option on the reverse side is, if the stock pulls back sharply after the news or after the event, you could actually get into a leap call, which could be a year or year and a half, 2 years out,
Mm.
at a much cheaper price. Because end of the day, Apple will get its act together at some point, right? Either they'll do the acquisition or they'll get something right. That's the hope, and they have delivered it many times. So we'll put the bet on this horse rather than a new name, right? It's easier to bet on these people. So that's my play for it. I think we may be able to see, because this and Google has been a laggard in the Mac 7. So now people are trying to see if these two names, and Google really ran up, I would say.
Yeah, definitely. You've kind of got a rounding pattern here as well
Yeah,
for Apple. So it's looking like it's kind of going towards that 260. When is the event again, you say?
I believe it should be on Tuesday, I think.
Is it this week? Okay, that'd be very interesting to see if it's kind of a sale and news event.
Yes, September 9th.
Considering it's been so
Yeah.
well, the price action's been so well received in the last, well, let's say, month or so, really. It's been going really well, to be fair. It's kind of been putting up the spiral QQQ as you would expect. But yeah, it's interesting to see this. I don't really know what to say, to be honest. I'm not too sure what else I can add, but yeah, I like the idea of it kind of selling off potentially and then using that as a good excuse to kind of buy leaps for the future if there is signs of something, some sort of innovation there for Apple. So yeah, that's all I can really kind of go along with, really. Justin has added, yes, Tuesday. Fantastic. Good to see you, Justin. Welcome back. Haven't seen you on the YouTube side of things for a little while, so it's good to have you here. We've got True North Sun as well. What's your view on CLS, Arista Network, and CRDO? We'll get to them a bit later on. Probably, actually not that long, probably about 2 or 3 minutes. So yeah, any final words on your pick of the week, Apple?
That's it. Waiting and watching.
Awesome. I think that might be it. There we go. So we are going to be jumping into the charts now. So make sure I'll stick on the screen. Here we go. Right, let's start pressing some buttons. There we go. Put your tick requests in the comments. We've got quite a few already, but we'll fly through them, no doubt. About 20 minutes in now. I'll just get the chart ready for you, Kaye.
Yeah.
Or for us, should I
But
say.
the first one is Clean Spark, CLSK.
I saw you talking about this earlier with someone.
Listen, I'll be very honest. I don't know what they do. Okay. I have no interest in doing. I'm just following one person, and I'm just doing a lotto here, right? I've just thrown some call options and just the lotto for me, because you cannot be doing research on every ticker, right? There's only so much you could do.
Exactly right. So let's jump into that then. Right, here we go. Get the chart up.
It's wrong, yeah, but if it's right, I'll bring some cash.
There's no harm in taking a little risk, is there? So yeah, okay. So I don't know. So let's talk about what you think about it then. What's the opportunity here? Is it literally just kind of risk to reward type thing, or?
So I think the opportunity that most people are looking at, and I'll be honest, I don't know what they do, nor do I have fundamental, but just from a technical standpoint, I think back to its equal highs from July, even if you get to that, that's the play that we are looking at, right? That's up almost 47%. That's a great swing trade or a short-term trade that you can actually, right? 47.
That's 111%.
Really? Why is it showing 47 for me here?
Oh, it might be on a different year. There we go. Never, I'm on a different year. Yeah. I was looking at July of 24.
Okay.
This is the 2-week chart. So I've zoomed out quite a bit.
So I am actually, are you on a weekly?
This is a 2-week chart. I can go to the weekly chart.
I'm on daily, that's why.
So you're talking about this level here in July.
Right, exactly. And basically I'm just looking at the July highs, basically. So it's what, a month and a half, 2 month back. That's like a 50% going back to the 1358 level.
Yeah, this one there.
Yeah, that's a 50% right there. Of course, if it can go higher, the higher it goes, the more you make. But I'm saying just that swing trade of 50% is massive.
Yeah, and I like the volume here on the right side to kind of support that. Unfortunately, I did just have the moving averages there. Moving averages don't look good on the weekly, which tends to be a little bit more heavy resistance than on the daily and the 2-day. So just be careful of that. But if we do get a push off of this volume, then that would be great. But there's nothing really much else kind of in the way there. Even if you drew a kind of a shorter term trend line from these lows across, it's kind of broken that trend line, as you can see. So it could actually come back down somewhere closer to kind of 840, 850. That's maybe where I would look to buy it, just because we've got the kind of big support here back in the day. But yeah, I mean, anywhere between 850 and 9 could be a good spot for this one for the longer term. Would you play leaps on this one? Was that correct?
I mean, I just have straight up
Just
calls.
shares? Oh,
No, I
okay.
just
Oh,
have straight up
calls.
call
Okay.
options. Yeah, yeah. I'm not doing leaps on these, but straight up call options. And the way I decide what the expiration would be is just basically look at the options chain, maybe 3 months to 6 months out. You could do leaps if you want. If you really think it might be cheaper, or it might, you might need that many quarters for it to play out. Yes, I think leaps would be a better option in that scenario.
Yeah, so that's your kind of thesis there. My thesis would be come back down to kind of 859-ish, and then come back up with a slightly longer term swing trade, maybe hold some shares instead, and then look for that $16 level, which was a kind of a resistance, a quite heavy resistance back in the end of last year.
Yeah,
Awesome.
I
Let's
mean,
move
if
on.
you just to wrap this up, CLSK, you have all the moving averages basically as a resistance at this point in time. You have the 20,
Exactly.
you have the
Yeah.
50, you have the 200, you have the 300. Continue. Next is up. I think we discussed up last week as well, or the week before.
Yeah,
It's
probably. Oh, look at that. It's
real
this week's not been so good.
Yeah.
So that line I've drawn is I've kind of drawn it as a temporary support. I've never going to trade this, I don't think, but it looks like it's kind of retreated back down to this level. Very hard close on Friday. Like, there's no wick there at all at the bottom, so that's a forceful close on Friday, which is not really what you want to see, especially as the market's kind of going up. Obviously, that's not always the case, but I mean, coming back down to these moving averages could be good. I've got a bit of volume here at 150, but that's another 40% down. Yeah, not one I'd be looking at, that's for sure.
Yeah. Next up is snow. Let's see. While you pull up the chart, what's the any news on snow? They didn't report earnings last week, right?
No, they reported on 27th of August, so a week before.
Okay. Alright, so what's going on with
Just
snow?
a couple of comments here we'll go through. Thoughts about LYFT, we'll get to that in just a second, don't you worry. And of course, another one here. Can you check if Broadcom will continue its trend? We will certainly do that for you. We'll take a look into that. Hasn't that been suggested already? No, I must have missed that. Cool. Anyway, so what did you look up the news for snow?
No, nothing major going on. We had this nice pop up, right? That was right after earnings, I'm assuming.
Yes, yeah,
Okay,
correct.
so that created that gap. If you are looking to enter, most likely that's going to fill the gap because it's already has gone down since then. I honestly have another gap which is in the range of 188, right? 183 to 191, something like that.
This gap
Yeah,
here.
exactly. So if we see broader weakness in the market, a lot of these stocks will actually uh, be able to fill those gaps. And also, this gap is not that far down that it cannot fill it. Like for example, let's say if you look at Palantir, for example, like one of the gaps is at I think in the 40s, 50s, or 30s, something like that. So that means that Palantir will have to come down in valuation that much. Can it happen? Yes, but your favorite terminology, not all gaps get filled, but most gaps do. So, but the
Yeah.
chance of Snowflake filling this gap is much higher than Palantir filling that gap.
Yeah, it's a funny one, this Snowflake one, because you can look long term and think, oh, actually, it's still got a lot of work to do. Because if you go to the 2 week chart, if it's still got a lot of way to come back to kind of its all-time highs back in 2021. But it does look like it's kind of breaking out of this resistance that we've had.
Mhm.
Let's say probably about round one. Oh god, yeah, there we go. 230, 235 we've got here. So if we can break out of that, then we could really go on a significant run.
Yeah.
But we kind of already have as well, so it could just keep stepping upwards, which
Well,
would be kind of a good news for the long-term investors. But as traders, it's tricky to kind of trade that, in my opinion.
so if you think about it, like when last year I posted this trade idea, of course I don't have it in my portfolio because I banked at 50% and I sold off, I closed my position. I made 50% on Snowflake. But if you had bought it and you still held it, you would be up 88% on that. just from the start of the year.
There you go.
That beats your
Listen to Kaye.
that beats your QQQ performance for the year.
100%, yeah. Awesome. Right, what's next?
Next up is RBRK Rubric. This is another very popular stock. It has very juicy premiums. Like for a $90 stock, you're making $700 at the money premium. That's crazy.
I seem to have some sort of laser show going on here, and as I mentioned earlier, I am in this trade because you can see the long position on the screen. It's going okay. It's just been choppy, which is really annoying, but it hasn't come back down to my stop loss, which is good. But earnings are Tuesday, and I've got a decision to make. Do I cut half the position, take the rest through through earnings? Yeah, I'll probably do that. But there is a case to be made where if you're bullish on the earnings, you know about the company, which I do not know too much about the company because this is meant to be a trade for me, more technically based. Then of course I do have to make the decision of do I cut more, and don't take any through earnings. Essentially, is what I'm trying to say. But I think me being me, I'll keep some on the table. There's lots of support around these areas, as you can see. Even if you get rid of, there's a lot of lines on here. So let's get rid of the trend lines that I've got on the screen. Just quickly.
While you're doing that, let me just give you.
There we go.
They basically offer enterprise data protection, cloud data protection, SaaS data protection. So it's a data protection company. So that's just so you know.
Okay, sorry. I'll have to do a little bit of digging in there, I think, before earnings, perhaps, to see if they're projected to go up or not. But this base that's been formed, and we spoke about this a few weeks ago with you as well, because you like a bit of a range-bound stock, and this one's been range-bound between 83 and 94 since the beginning of June, pretty much. You could probably say even in parts of May. So it's been building a bit of a base. It's the moving averages in the right areas. They're below the price action, which is what we like to see. Not only on the daily time frame, but on the weekly time frame as well. We've got the 20 moving average just below that. So technically the signs are looking, okay, great, this is going up. And that's why obviously I've started the trade, amongst other reasons as well. But earnings is always an interesting one. What would you do in this situation? Not that I want any advice from you, but what would you do in this particular situation if you were in this situation?
For the earnings?
Yeah, if you were holding a position going into earnings, what would you normally do? Or would you just...
So first I would look at the sentiment. And one of the best ways you can actually test the sentiments of the earnings is actually on Twitter or X. You can use Grok to check the sentiments. That would be a great idea, because what you want to see is when you are getting into the earnings, how is the option flow market reacting? Are we getting a lot of calls, or are we getting a lot of puts? That will give you a sense on where, how to hedge. Second, what you can do is you can buy a protective put. So let's say you already have stocks, right? And so you already are covered. In an upside you can make money, but you're worried what happens to the downside. So what you can do is you can actually buy a protective put, which means that you can buy a put over here. So as the stock starts declining, you will make money on the put. So that's like an insurance that you can get into the earnings if you already hold stocks. In many cases, like when we talk about those earnings, we are not in that position, so we have to figure it out. Hey, should we do a call spread? Should we do a put spread? Should we do iron condors? Whatever, strangle, straddle, whatever we do. But in your case, I would buy a protective put here as an insurance in case the stock starts to plummet, because you'll make money.
And then the reason for that in my logical brain is if that put prints, as people say, and it comes down 10%, 20%, whatever, and those profits, but you still like the company, then you can put those profits back
to
into the
buying
company.
stocks. Exactly. So let's say if you end up getting $200 from that put, I'm just talking about it, right? You have a put and it prints you $400, $500. Put that back into the stock at a lower cost basis, and you will be able to bring down your cost basis. Now, I will say I love SaaS space. This was not on my radar. I think this was brought up like a couple weeks back, so it's on my radar now. I'll watch their earnings. I'll look at their reports. Something very interesting. Their premiums are very juicy. As I was saying, for a $90 stock, you'll be getting $700 for one contract because 100 shares. That's massive.
There you go. We've spoken quite a lot on Rubric there. So an exciting name for many, including now Kaye. So we've done something right here on the stream. Thanks for bringing that one up. I think it was ManRam. Yes, once again.
Yeah, FTNT next is for
FTNT. Before we jump into that, we've got to quickly bring up this one. Here we go. Subscribe to the Trading Weekly on YouTube. It kind of almost cut our heads off there, but you can see it on the screen. It's at Trading Weekly on YouTube. Do go over there and subscribe. Come back week after week. We've got a few exciting things coming up at the end of the year, a bit more educational things, maybe just some more psychological chats that we can have going into that kind of Christmas period as well, where people are kind of spending more time in the evenings, and that's why we're looking at that, of course. So yeah, let's jump back into the charts. What did you say FTNT?
FTNT. While you're pulling that up, so they received a downgrade on the as firewall refresh disappoints Morgan Stanley. That was from September 2nd, which was last Tuesday. We did see this massive gap down, and now you have all these beautiful SMAs. Let me look at their earnings in general.
This is cybersecurity, right?
This is cybersecurity, yes.
Yeah. I do like cybersecurity because the world's obviously the way it is. It needs that protection.
But not every cybersecurity stock is able to perform. Look at Okta, for example.
Yeah, even an ETF.
Like my trade on Okta did not play as well as it should have played. But anyways, this one is a tricky one, I would say, because look at this. This is a $78 stock, and you'll only get $100. So there isn't much volatility on the stock as like Rubrik, for example. How would you play the earnings with one? Man, there is another gap below it, which is from the 50s. And if they disappoint the earnings, more than the earnings, the future guidance on the conversion of the customers or the sales cycle, any of those weaknesses, you will see that gap filling very quickly to the downside.
Yeah, I'm just trying to analyze this chart while it's here.
So
I don't really see
to fill the downside gap, whereas for the upside it's 23%. So you're right smack in the middle.
Yeah. Are you talking about this gap here?
Yeah.
It's a 57.
Yeah.
To the downside, and the upside obviously 95.
Yeah.
It's in no man's land, so it's tricky to go into that. And the kind of broader wedge, which I know it's a bit ground, but it's kind of almost right in the middle of the wedge. So I'd be more inclined to kind of wait for it to come back down to 65, 67, and see how it reacts there.
So the key here is that you need to actually do a little bit more, research on why that drop happened. Was it an earnings?
Yes, earnings reaction. So it might be poor guidance, because it looks like we've actually got a green badge here on the earnings down the bottom there.
Okay.
Which means that they've obviously beat earnings, but yeah, they must have said something in the call or bad guidance, something like that.
So if that has already happened, then what I would recommend is don't do anything at this point in time. Just wait.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
For it to stabilize and give you a direction. Right now, it's in no man's land.
Exactly. I think we're both on the same page there. Maybe leave this one.
Okay.
If you're in this for the long term now, again, same sort of thing. Analyze what position you've got, and then maybe see where. For example, in a long-term position, would you, if you saw it going down, hypothetically, if you're in this, you've got, I don't know, 100 shares, let's say. You're hypothetically seeing it further go down. Do you sell half of those shares and then buy them back when it's down here, or would you just sit on them and wait for long term?
No, I would just let it stabilize, and then I will probably add at a lower cost basis, right? So that I can lower my original cost basis. That's how I would do. But the point is, if you're going to do that, you want to have enough of a downturn from your existing cost basis to actually have a meaningful reduction.
Exactly. Yeah. Especially the amount of shares you hold at that particular time.
Yeah. So if, let's say, you have this at 78 you bought, right, and it drops to 30s, for example, then you buy another 100, then you are somewhere in the middle, because now you have 200 shares. But again, you will only buy quantities like that if you believe in the company, if you believe in the
exactly right
investment. That's the key.
Right, let's move on.
Tesla,
here we go. You're about to see my position. This is the 2-day chart. Let's move back to the 1-day chart. We had an interesting week, and the reason I bought it, and I'll let you talk about this in a second. The reason I bought it is because of the strength around the moving averages and the volume we have here on the right side. essentially. And obviously, I had a really good day Friday, which was nice, but I actually bought this on the Wednesday. As you can see, I'll zoom in a bit so people can actually see. Bought this on the Wednesday to kind of anticipation of a break there, but also with the stop loss, a fairly safe position down at 308. I really want to move that up, and I'm probably going to do that. But I want to get a couple more days price action, and then move it straight back up to kind of 325 somewhere up here, and then that will make that basically a 6-to-1 trade ratio, which is really good. Especially in swing trading book. But I'm keeping a very heavy stop loss at the moment. But yeah, what are your thoughts on my trade? Maybe I don't really talk about this, do we? What are your
I,
thoughts here?
I like the idea, honestly, and
Mm.
honestly, I mean, I'm looking at Tesla again. Even though my last thesis of Tesla trade, even though I had the right idea, it just did not play it in that time frame, because that's the problem with options trading. You are running against time. If I would have just held stocks and played it that way, which I already have, which but if you're doing options trading, time is your enemy and your friend at the same time. Because this wedge breakout did not happen, because my wedge is a little bit different from your wedge, if you remember.
Yeah, yours is kind of from
Yeah, exactly.
this area, I think.
Yeah. So that is from the equal highs from February, and yours starts from June. So it did have a breakout from the wedge, but it quickly came back into the wedge. But my options contract expired, for a full loss, unfortunately. Otherwise, that was a banger of a trade.
Exactly. And just for context as well, we've got the 420 line up here, which is obviously a fun number with Elon Musk. But I've actually gone for a target of 400, at least for targets. It's a bit more psychological. Just gives you that kind of barrier of safety as well from the 420 to the 400. But yeah, I see it continuing going up. Of course, that's what I put the trade on. That's what I hope for. But of course, it's Tesla. Anything can happen. We're down 20% tomorrow.
Also, keep in mind this is another laggard from the Mac 7, along with Apple. So Google
Yeah,
already has run up. Apple has an event that could make it run up. Actually, it already ran up towards the event and may could run up more. Tesla has really been delivered you minus 13% for the year. With all the negative numbers, the only thing positive that has come out is now the robotaxi app is now available for public. Second, uh, I think they are talking about these new, what do you call, forgetting the name, Elon Musk's new package, pay package, for all the milestones. If he hits those, he will get those, the relevant pay package. So that puts a little bit more interest in the company. And then they launched the new Model Y L, large size, in China. That probably will come to the US. We'll see how that plays out. Would that spike interest? We'll see. A lot of things for Tesla to do it right. But again, stock could still run even with the company doing poorly.
exactly right. Yeah. Okay, let's hope that happens because that would make me very happy. Let's move on to the next one. What we got?
Open.
Open door. Okay, this one has exploded. Essentially, let's get rid of those couple of lines. I don't even know how to even talk about this one because it's gone mad. And there's people talking about this actually going even further, like
This is like a meme.
fundamentally.
Yeah, this is the AMC GME type of stuff that's going on with Open here.
The price action, yeah, but the company apparently is all right. I don't even know much about them, to be honest, but I saw it on X. I don't mean nothing, I guess. But moving past certain comments and people actually looking for this for the longer term, which
The-
perhaps this might be why you're seeing this price action.
I mean,
What have you got there, Kay?
the Wall Street has a hold rating. Seeking Alpha analysts have a sell rating. Quant has a sell rating. Sorry, Quant has a hold rating. So I don't know what we're talking about from a fundamental standpoint. Their valuation sucks, right? The valuation is C. Their growth is F. Their profitability is F. So there's no valuation. What's going right for this is the short interest, which is 21%.
Mm,
So the way, if you want to play lotto here, again, I'm talking about lotto here. There's no technical analysis, no fundamental analysis. Buy those leap calls, and or like few quarters ahead, 6 7 months of calls, and just play it. Again, as I said, right, like same thing I did with Clean Spark, I did with Open. It's like I'm not gonna waste my brain cells in researching. Just play the lotto if you want to.
So one thing I look out for, if we are doing a little bit of technical analysis here, is a retracement back down to the $5 mark. Lots of volume here. If the 20-moving average comes up there as well, that's 3 points of confidence. I know on these types of stocks, it doesn't mean a huge amount, but it also kind of does, because you've got to have that kind of support in from these stocks as well. So if it comes back down to 5, which albeit is a big drop from where it is now, like percentage-wise, but I might, like you say, pick up a few lotto calls there at $5, maybe $10 call or something like that, for kind of go on for a few months. We'll see what
Yeah,
happens. But
exactly.
yeah, no, definitely worth a look. I'm gonna add that on my watch list actually. Why not? Let's do it.
I mean, if you think about wasting $100 or something else, you could probably just do a lotto here. Again, it could completely you could completely lose all your cash on this one. But again, if you make it, all right. Next is Marvel.
MRVL.
I don't know. I just feel like Marvel has just been stuck in this loop for a while.
So you can see here actually that a trade that I did have and it came back down and stop lost out. So there's a good reenactment of a stock not going my way. So yeah, I don't always win trades. No one always wins trades. You can't win all of them, and this is a good example of that. Even though it did kind of come back up to the entry point, but then it obviously subsequently sold off because of earnings by the looks of it. So yeah, that's why we have stop losses essentially, because I've lost 7%, but I could have lost 19, almost 20% essentially. So just be careful when you're out there and make sure you have those stop losses in every single trade. I know it's a bit different depending on what kind of strategy you have, but just have some sort of thoughts of a way out, should we say. But for now, we'll get rid of that and we'll have a look at the chart. It doesn't look good, to be honest, Kaye. I'm not too sure where to go from this. Maybe a gap fill. There's loads of gaps down here, actually.
Yeah. And with Marvel, somehow Marvel has not been able to really capitalize on the run, even when we had that run on the AI side, right? Not to say they did not have a run. I mean, if you bought them in the lows of third, sorry, I'm looking at the wrong chart. ABGO. Yeah, if you bought them in back in June, no, sorry, April, which brought it to 46, and you're now at 63. So it hasn't really delivered returns for you. It's down 42% year to date. Could have had an
Yeah,
80% run and yeah, but
it's quite bad, isn't it? There's a couple of gaps here I've got drawn. So maybe somewhere, especially because we spoke about this earlier with another stock, the kind of no man's land nature. If we get a bit of support around these areas, then I'd be interested. But yeah, I've lost that trade already. I'm moving on to different things. All right, let's move
but
on.
but what I'll say is just to wrap this up, if this is your long-term portfolio stock, I think this presents opportunity for you to start accumulating. And keep in mind, um, in the investment world, wealth buildup happens from the volume of stocks you own, not the number of stocks you own. Just keep that perspective. You could hold 3 stocks and thousands of shares and you will build wealth. Whereas you own 30 stocks, but some of them you will have a 1000% return,
Mhm.
but not enough volume to move the needle for you. So keep those things in mind.
Yeah, diversification isn't everything, I think, is what Kaye's trying to say there. We've got a comment here from Justin. Could Google sell off after the Apple event? Apple mentioned they might integrate Gemini in Siri.
I mean, at this point in time, I you might even see a run up, Justin, and the reason is because Google has been starved during this entire run for all the other Mac 7s that were running. So Apple had a pretty bad year, I would say. Now they're catching up. Google had a bad year; they are catching up. But Tesla, of course, hasn't done anything yet. But apart from that, Meta, Microsoft, Netflix is no longer there. But what other companies are there? Forget Nvidia.
Tesla.
No, not Tesla is still down for the year. So now basically the investors are looking at, hey, what are the other Mac 7s? Can we start to put more money? And I think suddenly the narrative against Google is changing. Now they're saying, hey, Google could become the most important company in the world in the next 5 years.
And that's essentially what's pushing up the SPY and QQQ, the kind of nature of them taking turns and pushing each other up.
Yeah. All right, let's
Yeah.
move a little bit faster on this one. Next is AVGO.
Right, after earnings. The comment on this one, I believe, was, can you check if Broadcom AVGO will continue its trend? Well, it's definitely started that way, hasn't it, with a whopping day on Friday. The nature of this was up 9%, which for a
Yeah.
stock of this stature is actually pretty good. I would expect it to come down to maybe at least either fill the gap or come back down to the previous resistance of this level here, which is 316 by the looks of it. So I would look for an entry around 316 and for it to kind of carry on back up to that kind of 350 plus for sure. Sounds a bit kind of dramatic, but the way that candle's formed, it's definitely very possible. Just because there's a lot of space here, isn't there, Kaye?
Yeah.
Is that something you'd be looking for, like I'm looking for as well, a gap fill, or
Not on AVGO. I'm mostly into Qualcomm. But I know, I
fair
mean,
enough?
I've traded AVGO many times, but right now I'm not in this trade or any of that.
So we're looking at something a bit like chop it down and then make another move up. I think that's a bit more healthy. Lots of volume down here as well.
Yeah,
But of course,
and you would want
yeah,
the gap to be filled, honestly, for the consolidation before the next run up.
yeah, exactly. Oh, awesome. Okay, let's move on.
Next is Hood. I think there was a comment on Hood. I think we did cover
Yes,
Hood
but
a little bit, so you can just cover from a technical standpoint. I think we talked about the
so
rest.
it's definitely lost the trend line, but it was up, I think, 8% after hours because it got included in the S&P, didn't it? So 8% is about here, so it's back up to kind of 110 level, which still is nowhere near the trend line. So maybe we see a bit more momentum. I think definitely kind of going into the anticipation of it being included in the S&P, which is obviously great news for the company and Vlad Tenev, the CEO. But maybe if we come up to this sort of level, which is actually resistance on the trend line, the previous trend line, and also all-time highs, well, not all-time highs for this one, but recent highs of about 117. So that'd be a big test area for Hood. And I'll be looking forward to seeing what kind of happens then at that level, because that could be a potential short opportunity. But on, but these types of stocks, they can kind of blast straight through it and kind of continue. So definitely 117, that 117, 118 level is one to be looking at, I think, coming up for Robinhood for sure. Support wise, we've got plenty here. We've got 1, 2, 3, basically 4 touches around that 98. So there's plenty of support around here. So yeah, I think that's kind of my thoughts on that. Any thoughts from you?
No, I think the next milestone for Hood would be actually breaking their quarterly revenue into 1 billion. They came 989. The past earning, the upcoming earning, they're estimating 1.09. So that's going to be a big number, right? Getting into the
Yeah,
billion dollar earnings. So 4 billion plus in the entire year. That's great.
we've got here as well. Hood also has a conference on Tuesday and Metrics on Thursday. So there's always data points coming out from Hood, and obviously events and news, etc. from Hood. That's why it's obviously so heavily covered around the FinTwit space. But yeah, I'm here for it. Unfortunately, I'm not in Hood at the moment, which is a shame because I was, and I kind of sold, and I'm stupid. But sometimes that happens. You take it for what it is. Let's move on.
CLS. It's called Celestica Inc. This is the first time I'm hearing this name. So let's see what they do.
$242. They went up, I'm guessing, because of news on Friday, because there's no earnings badge down there.
It's electronic manufacturing services industry.
Is there any news articles related on Friday?
Let's see. They reported earnings. No, they reported on Tuesday, July 29th. I don't see any news here, honestly.
It's interesting how that's gone up then in such aggressive fashion. Yeah, I'd have to do a little more research into that for sure. But price action, I would like it to come back down, basically just to retest this trend line, and then that would be something I'd look at. It's very, very simple. Come back down, retest this kind of upwards trend line. It's more of a channel resistance really than a trend line, because trend lines normally support more than anything. But yeah, come back down to maybe 225 and then make another move back up to kind of 250, which is a good 10% move to be fair.
Yeah.
But I'd have to do a bit more research definitely into the stock. I'm not going to take that at face value.
Yeah.
Well,
There's ANET.
Vista Networks is one of yours, isn't it?
Well, it used to be. I am not in ANET anymore. It's been a while. It's been more than a year now.
Any comments on this one from a company point of view, or not so much?
Don't see anything specific.
It's done pretty well recently.
Yeah. Yeah, they're doing pretty well. It's mostly hold. Wall Street has a buy rating on this one, and yeah, there's no specific news that there. Mostly old news though.
Okay, so we've got a comment here from Ryan. Dan Ives added it to the TF, so I'm guessing maybe ETF.
Yeah, the ETF. Yes.
So that's obviously because Dan Ives is a big personality in the industry, especially to the upside. He's a very bullish man, isn't he?
Yeah, he's a bullish analyst, and the point is like when you if you keep repeating something, because he never gives you a time frame. He always talks about going up, going up, going up. Listen, broken clock is right twice. I'm not saying that he's a broken clock, but you will get it right eventually, because he has been calling Apple to go up before Apple came down to 170. By the way, that was last year. Um, that's my take on Dan Ives. No, nice guy. I like his color coordinations though.
Yeah. Is
Yeah,
it coordinated? I'm not sure.
I like it how bold he is on those things.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, let's move on.
Next is CRDO.
How many have we got left?
We actually got one more, but let me see if I missed anything. GWW is another one. I think we touched upon Salesforce already. So there was a comment from Mr. Chaudhary.base.eth. So that's it.
Yeah.
That we have CRDO, LYFT, and GWW. So I think we can probably be able to wrap it up.
I think that was a reaction, not reaction, a kind of reply to what we were saying. So Salesforce down on mixed guidance, but I believe they'll take off soon. So
Yeah. I mean,
yeah.
I think in general, the issue with Salesforce is it's not a cheap software. So the problem is that the SMB, the small and mid-sized businesses, sometimes Salesforce is too expensive of a solution because it's such a complicated software if you use it that it's not easy to implement that software unless you hire somebody who has done Salesforce implementation. So it's mostly for larger businesses. That's my personal take on it. And then there are a lot of players in the SMB space nowadays.
There you go. Fantastic. Let's go back to this chart then. We've got CRDO,
Yeah, do you-
which is, I don't know what they do, but they've been going very well basically since
I'll
April.
bring it up. So CRDO is a semiconductors space. They provide high-speed connectivity solutions for optical and electrical Ethernet PCIs applications in US, Taiwan, China, Hong Kong, and other places.
Interesting. It's been going very, very well. I'm not too sure where I would buy this, if I would buy it. Oh yeah, someone did bring up Palantir earlier. We missed that one. Let's do Palantir to finish.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, broadening channel to kind of keep going upwards, which is fantastic. Maybe there is a bit of resistance here, and we come back down to this level of 120, 125. I think that's fair. And then obviously we can prepare to make another leg up if it is to continue following this channel.
Ryan made a comment just now. He said CRM just landed a contract with US Army. I think that was the reason probably Benny, the CEO of CRM, made a comment against Palantir, and then Palantir CEO Alex.
Yeah,
Maybe
that
okay,
makes sense.
that makes a lot more sense now. Okay, continue. Sorry.
It's all coming together now. Yeah, that's it for CRDO. What we'll do is we'll move on to the last, two stocks?
Two stocks,
GW
LYFT, GWW, and Palantir, and we wrap it up.
Awesome. This is LYFT, not quite following in the footsteps of Uber, is it?
Definitely not. I honestly, I mean, I'm in the tri-state area, right? I mean, when Lyft was launched, the pricing of Lyft was much lower than Uber, so a lot of folks moved to the Lyft. But now I don't really see any difference in pricing, so I don't want to keep two apps on my phone anyway. So I just keep using Uber. But again, my use case is a very ad hoc. I don't use Uber that much. I drive most of the places. Is not the best one, but I don't really have anything specific on Lyft. I think Uber is a much better play, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, from a technical standpoint, looking at just a very basic technical analysis here, we've got a breakout, which kind of tried it last week on the weekly chart now. It's a bit of patience, I think, needed here, but if we do kind of push up to that 18 level, And then if we just kind of naturally retrace to a double kind of support point here from two different trend lines around 16, obviously volume profile on the right, you'll probably have the moving averages nicely around there as well. So just a bit of patience needed here for sure, if you are bullish on LYFT long term. What's next?
GWW.
I don't know what this one is. This
Uh,
is a WW Granger. Sounds like some sort of insurance company.
Let me see. It is trading companies and distributors industry, and what do they do? They distribute, maintain, repair operating products and services primarily in not but the high touch solution North America. Endless, dude. I have no idea what they do. Honestly, I'll have to.
Yeah.
The company
that
provides
it,
security, material handling, storage equipment, pumps, and plumbing equipments. Okay, industrial stuff.
yeah, it's a very highly rated, highly dollar stock. It's not almost $1,000 essentially. It's looking very negative though. It's got a trend line just above it, got two moving averages, lots of volume, although it's kind of supported as well, kind of this area. So there's lots of resistance here, but of course, if it can push through that, then that'd be fantastic for the stock. But I mean, it's hard to trade these sorts of stocks if it's so, as you say, kind of industrial type stocks. It's, I don't really trade these sorts of names. Tech is a bit easier.
Okay. Ryan made a comment. Lyft, I think, released a PR about a Lucid partnership.
Okay, Uber did that as well, didn't they? For Lucid.
Does it? I don't know. I don't
I
think
think
so.
Uber did that. I mean, might be a little bit wrong there. I think Uber did that for Lucid partnership, and that's why we've got that massive move. Unless maybe that's why it sold off. But yeah, the kind of massive move we had from Lucid is about 40-50% or something crazy. It was because of that Uber news, essentially. Okay, let's move on to the last stock of the day because we are hitting our hourly points here, but we are really appreciating the amount of comments that are coming in. Make sure you come back next week at 1 p.m. Eastern time. We'll be here once again on X and on YouTube as well. Yeah, so let's jump into the last stock of the day, which is Palantir. What a stock to end on. It's just been keep going up and up and up. This is the weekly chart. Nope, that's the wrong chart. There we go. That's the right chart. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of come down actually the last month or so. So maybe a little bit of calming down potentially. So where do I start with this? I seem to have drawn a red line here, which it seems to be respecting
Well, they did
quite nicely.
filled one gap, right? If you remember this curve that happened, it filled one gap.
This one here, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, the next gap down, we're looking at
That's
96.
Trust me, you want to take profit before that gap starts filling.
100%, because that's below the 200 moving average as well. So similar sort of boat as the last stock we looked at as well. There's lots of resistance kind of above Palantir, but also using it as 50 as support. It's a tricky one because you could also draw a mini wedge. Actually, I've just seen that. We could draw a smaller wedge here. Bear with me while I draw this out, and you've kind of got that there. So you've definitely got a bit of a wedge. I'll get rid of the line so you can kind of see it a bit clearer. And that one there. So I'll be looking at something either to the upside or to the downside from there for sure. I mean, you could just play, if it goes to go to the upside, you could just play a very simple trade from 159 back up to the previous trend line. I know it sounds a bit confusing, but I'm sure you're with me. About 11%, just a very small, probably happens in about 3 or 4 days type trade, potentially, if you are looking at Palantir for a trading opportunity. Of course, yeah. So, sorry, you go ahead.
I'm saying just like Robinhood, 407% return in 1 year and 102% return year to date. So you really cannot complain about the run up on Palantir and Hood, even if you get like a 20% correction on this one.
Yeah, one of my friends is holding this, and he's thinking because we speak about his portfolio sometimes, and I'm like, why don't you just sell some? It's doing really well, and he's like, no, I'm going to hold forever. I'm like, okay, that's fair enough. It's his choice. I don't mind that, of course. But I mean, if it was me, I would have taken some profits at some point. If it was me, I probably would have taken profits down to 80.
Yeah,
I'm a bit more conservative like that.
there
But
are two schools of thought here, right? One school of thought, if Palantir is your first one hit wonder that you invested
yeah,
and you made a lot of money, so don't fall in love with it. You got your thesis right. Don't lose. So you made the money. That's the first stage. Next is don't lose that money, because if you made a lot of money and you have a retracement of 50%, you have a whole rating across the board, man. I mean, now it has to grow into the valuation, right? You cannot keep going up. The same, you can look at Tesla. I'm not going to Apple, I'm not going to Amazon and all those stocks. You just look at Tesla. It has been almost flat for a while now. So you could see a similar trend, just flat. Nothing going up, nothing going down, not filling those gaps, just being flat. So that's a next challenge for Palantir investors.
And I think that's a good way to end today's session. Today's been a really good session. I've got a few names written down here, which is always good to see. Yeah, so I mean, obviously we've got a full week this week. We kind of run off the back of a 4-day week last week. So back to normal. What are your kind of thoughts going into this week? You can take it steady, kind of go full in.
No, the CPI, PPI are going to be key for this year, sorry,
Yeah.
for this week, because that will give us a very clear indication on the rate cut. Most likely, we'll have a rate cut. Question is it going to be 25 basis point or 50 basis point, 0.25% or 0.5%, right? That's what we're looking at. The issue is not the issue, but once you have that rate cut coming up, then a lot of people who have money in the high yield savings account, that rate will go down too. Doesn't mean the mortgage rates will go down. It could, but then you have the house prices haven't come down either. So this is a massive scenario.
Yeah, I think from a trading point of view, just always be careful when you're out there. It's a very choppy market, especially with these news reports. You've got CPI and PPI, as Kaye mentioned. So if you are trading overnight, especially kind of swing positions, just make sure you're kind of well allocated. Maybe take a little bit lower risk. Obviously, the market will move a lot more viciously, volatility wise. And then we'll move on to the kind of thank yous. Obviously, massive thank you to All Financial, the platform. We really couldn't do it without you. And of course, we've got subscribed to the Trader Weekly on YouTube just to finish ourselves up. Yeah, we'll be back next week at 1 p.m. I never know how to end these. I really don't. Maybe I should get some sort of script or something and just kind of. But this is me freeballing it. But yeah, we're going to end it here. We'll see you next week again here at 1 p.m. Eastern time. I think Kaye wants to say something.
I will answer Ryan, because Ryan did ask a question. He said, "Do you guys live stream on trading?" Unfortunately, we don't. I don't. Sean does many times.
I do, yes. I do on Thursday closes. So you can obviously find me at SeanTrades_ on YouTube. You can hit me up over there.
I wish I had the time to do live streams. I would love to do it, but I don't have time, unfortunately. I work.
Yeah. Life gets in the way sometimes. We can't always do what we want to do. But the important thing is we do this every week, Kaye, and we do really enjoy it. And it's just fantastic that obviously people also enjoy it. So yeah, keep coming back every week. We appreciate your support. That's it. Fantastic.
Right.
See you next week, Kaye. See you next week, everyone. Take care.
Bye.